welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Mirror Ball. I'm your host, Melina, and I run Mixing It Up with Melina over on Facebook and Instagram. This episode, y'all, just buckle up. Truly, like, I don't think anyone can think of season 13 if you watched it live or you have done research on it. When you hear season, there is a reason why season 13 has that eerie feel to it. So last week's episode was a bit shorter because there wasn't nearly as much juice, and season 13 was like, well, hold up, let me fix that for you, because season 13 has juice. So much. There's so much to talk about. I took y'all's notes. I'm going to make a few edits to how we do things here, but for the most part, we are going to stick to the norm. So get comfy, get cozy, grab your drink of choice. Y'all know I'm here with, I can't find my straw. I think I jinxed myself last week with not drinking it because now I can't find the straw. But get in whatever kind of realm you need to be in to enjoy this and have as little distractions as possible, and get your drink because we gotta talk. Okay, it is fall 2011. Put your BlackBerry down, turn anything else off, and let's get into it. We have our three judges, Bruno, Len, and Carrie Ann, and y'all, they were dicey this season. We have our two hosts, Tom and Brooke, and we have 12 couples this season. Okay, so our 12 couples, also 3 new pros this year, and 2 of them stuck around on our Legends in the Ballroom, and one of them is still on as a pro to this day. So first to go home in 12th place was Metta World Peace, also known as Rob Artest Jr. Ron Artest, not Rob, sorry about that. Partnered with the beautiful Peta. Peta was a troupe member last season and then upgraded over into the pro. And I'm going to touch on that in 1 second when we circle back to each couple talking more about them. Metta, at the time, that's what he went by. He changed his name. He was an NBA legend. 11th place this season, we had model actress Elisabetta Canalis. And I may be saying that wrong. No one's surprised though. Partnered with the ever handsome, the ever talented, the ever amazing Val. Y'all know I'm not even going to try that last name as much as I say it in other ways. Val enters the ballroom. He had been around in the background of things in seasons past, but this was his first time as a pro. Unfortunately, both him and Peta went home very quickly. That's okay. Slow and steady wins the race, right? Then we had Kristin Cavallari, one of the few that I forget even did the show. Reality TV star, and she has since grown from then, but at the time she was just known as the reality TV star. Partnered with Mark Ballas. We had Wilson Phillips singer Chynna Phillips, partnered with Tony Dovolani. We had Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, Carson Kressley, partnered with Anna, and oh my gosh, I love them so much. We'll touch on that in a second. We had activist Chaz Bono, partnered with Lacey Schwimmer. I loved this partnership. Chaz is the son, and forgive me if this comes out the wrong way. He is Cher's child, and Chaz is an activist in the trans community because he has done all of his transitions to being a man. Next up, we have David Arquette, very popular actor, partnered with Kim Johnson. Then we had Nancy Grace, who was partnered with Tristan McManus. I think I'm saying that right, maybe saying that wrong. Tristan was new to the ballroom as well. We'll touch on them in a second. Then we had professional soccer goalie Hope Solo, partnered with Max. Y'all know we are going to talk about them for sure. Whew, that's what I mean, buckle up, buckle up. Excuse me. Then we had Rob Kardashian come in second. Reality TV star from the Kardashian family, the only boy out of the Kardashians. partnered with Cheryl, Burke. So yeah, they came in second. And then winner this year was J.R. Martinez, an actor and known as an Army veteran. Much of his story, and he has a book, and he's a motivational speaker. He served for our country, and while serving for our country, he got facial injuries in addition to others. But he was partnered with Karina Smirnoff, and the two of them went on to win the Mirror Ball this season. Let's talk a little bit more about each of them though. So let's backtrack a bit. Let's start at the top. Our 12 couples, Metta, World Peace, and Peta. I said I wanted to touch on Peta. Peta was a troupe member last season. Crazy enough, I don't know if you remember, but a couple seasons ago, we had Pamela Anderson on the show, and she was partnered with a one and done pro, Damian Whitewood. Damian and Peta were actually together for a very long time leading up to their Dancing with the Stars career. Both of them are from the ballroom industry, and they were together on the show. Him being on allegedly got her toes into the show, and then she went on to be on the troupe, and then obviously a pro. He has since said in interviews that he doesn't think he was brought back to the show, maybe possibly because of her and them wanting to grow with her and her not wanting to grow with him, because at that same time she had met Max. Now her and Max do not end up dating. Well, actually they dated initially, then broke up and then got back together. But there seemed to be, according to Damian, a little bit of fuzziness with all of it, but he does think that there's a very good chance he was not brought back because of her. Now, while I think Damian was a great dancer, I love Peta. And so I'm really glad it all worked out the way that it did. So yes, they ended up going home very quickly. The same with Val and Elisabetta. Elisabetta didn't seem to be very comfortable on the dance floor, and Val was very much in his era of like, he was the hottie with the body on the ballroom floor. So those two just didn't work out. Same with Kristin Cavallari and Mark Ballas. They don't ever really speak a lot about it. Kristin doesn't really talk about her time on the show much at all. And Mark doesn't. They don't have anything negative to say about each other. I don't think there was bad blood there. I just don't think that they meshed nearly as well as he did with some of his other partners. Then we had Chynna and Tony. Chynna is from Wilson Phillips. Hold on for one more. Y'all know it. Y'all know it. You know you sang with me, and I am not a singer, but I love me some Wilson Phillips. They did really well until they didn't. I'm not sure if she got in her own head. I'm not sure if the choreography, it just didn't go well with her. I don't know if it was just a bad week, because we all have bad weeks. But the two of them went home surprisingly before some of the others. But yeah, that just didn't work out. But they were lovely, and there was potential there. Just didn't work out. Then we had fan favorite Carson and Anna on the floor. And while the man was not the best dancer, he brought performance to the ballroom. Him and Anna had I'm speaking on her behalf, and maybe there's a different viewpoint of hers, although she has expressed to me multiple times that she's had great partners. And I believe she's touching on all of them, but maybe not. But she really had maybe not the best dancers, but the best performance and partnerships that she had. Those two looked like they had so much fun. They continue to post about each other. It was just, he went on farther, even though the judges were unsure of why, because he wasn't the best dancer. But I think it was because, one, fan favorite, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy was still very popular at that time. And he just made it fun. Kind of had that Andy Richter feel, although I did not go with him for that. It was considered. I went between him and one other person. But yeah, they were a lot of fun to watch. And so I can see why they stayed around, because he was trying. It just, some people don't have that. Just doesn't ever click, but he was certainly trying. Okay. Next up, we had Chaz and Lacey. And I'm going to do my best to respect everyone in this situation, but I do want to deliver. There was a lot of heightened security with the decision to have Chaz be on the show. Chaz being trans, upset a lot of the conservative parties, it doesn't even matter what you affiliate yourself with politically. It just ruffled a lot of feathers. And when ruffled feathers are ruffled with this wrong person, it can be catastrophic. So with Chaz being on the show, they ended up heightening the security. There were death threats immediately following the announcement that he was going to be on the show. With that being said, him and Lacey had a beautiful partnership, and Lacey went to bat for Chaz, and Chaz couldn't say enough wonderful things about Lacey. I really think they had a really genuine good partnership, and I think Lacey was extremely protective of Chaz. And the judges did not seem to be a fan of Chaz, and he was not the best dancer, but certainly was trying. And Lacey even went to bat for him. I have quotes. Okay. So when it came to the judges, they would make comments about Chaz, Bruno, who oftentimes is not one to kind of step on toes or anything. And so maybe in Bruno's very small defense, this was just his way of approaching it. I don't know. But he called him a little Ewok and a fluffy penguin after certain routines. And so at one point, Lacey called out the judges in true Lacey form. You gotta love her for it, right? She would call them inappropriate, mean, disrespectful, and that she felt that they were judging him more on his looks versus what he was doing on the dance floor. So he did have, a couple what they considered breakthroughs. Chaz's growth on the show was really, I feel, to be powerful. He was very uncomfortable on the camera. Chaz has always been one to kind of shy away. His mom is Cher. I don't know, did I touch on that already? Cher's your mom. Come on. And so he's always been a little bit camera shy. Obviously, going through what he's gone through in the public eye cannot be easy. And so Lacey's dad came in at one point trying to help, which Lacey's dad is a famous choreographer and dancer himself. The Schwimmers, it just bleeds through them. Came on to help Chaz learn how to shake his butt. So then we had David Arquette and Kim Johnson partnered up, and he did so much better than I thought he was gonna do. I really enjoyed him. He certainly was trying. It was very much out of his comfort zone, but they looked like they had a really good time together, and he enjoyed his time. I don't think that they've ever said anything negative of each other. But yeah, they were just kind of like just kind of skirting underneath. There wasn't a lot of there was no controversy with them. There wasn't any flirtation with them. It was just, they were there, they were having fun. And that's, ultimately that was what the show was created for. Next up, we had Nancy Grace and Tristan. I will say, the only thing I'm going to touch on Nancy, truly, I think she may be the only person on this whole series that I will give no time to. She went farther than I thought she was going to go. And I don't know how her logistics worked out with her scheduling, because she was doing her show and all that stuff. But yeah, it was cool to see Tristan on the dance floor, and we will see him again in the future. Just not very much. He was kind of one of those undercover guys. Okay, now we have Hope and Max. If you need a drink, if you need a bathroom break, take it now, because I have a lot to unpack when it comes to these two. And I think I have a few hot takes, which I have not said in a minute. That's why I wore my sweater. I think I have some hot takes with this. And more than likely you agree with me, but I'm still gonna say it. Okay, I want to be respectful of anyone on here watching this or listening. There are going to be moments in this little segment of Hopes and Max where there are abuse allegations. So if this is anything that is triggering for you, then scoot on along, but know that it's going to be a few minutes. Now, by all means, I'm not getting like super, there's no details and things like that, but we are going to touch on it. So I just wanted to be respectful for anyone watching. Okay, so if you remember last season, Kirsty and Max were together. And I told you guys I was shocked that someone put these two together, that they were two strong-willed, stubborn people who were used to controlling the situations. However, they ended up working out really well together. And so maybe with casting decisions, they were made and they're like, hey, that worked out really well. Let's see if this Hope and Max works out just as well. And they were like, hold my beer, and then that didn't work out well. Hope Solo is the former U.S. soccer women's team. They went on to the Olympics. She's the goalie. She has played soccer her whole entire life. It was not new news that she had a very strong personality. But at that time, all we really knew was that she was many posters on girls' rooms. She was a hero in many girls' and women's eyes. And she was just someone who had a very strong workforce behind her, within her, I should say. So her and Max are partnered. Now, let me talk you through, as fans and viewers, as we're watching it unfold in front of us. And then we will talk about what happens down the road years later. Well, a year later and more. Okay, so. Now, mind you, this tumultuous, insanely toxic, and I don't like using that word, but that word was intended and created for this partnership. Abrasive, just downright not fun partnership. It is viewed throughout the whole season, and somehow the two of them end up coming in fourth. Yeah, fourth. Yeah. So even though we all knew that that was not a good pairing, I guess on the dance floor it wasn't so bad. I don't know. Part of me thinks that we had them hang around to see where this could go, and it did not go well. So in the midst of all of that, you have Max basically picking fights with two of the three judges, Carrie Ann and Len, which that had heightened last season. This season, this is a hot take of mine that I have. Len came into this season and you could tell that he just wasn't happy. And with that, Len is a traditionalist. Len is old school, which is why many of us love him the way that we do. However, I think Len had a very hard time with the transition of the show going from a ballroom competition show on reality TV with one of the two in a pair not having any ballroom background, to it now being a ballroom competition production. This is the season where the troupe started last year, but then this season, season 13, there's props, there's background dancers, the musicality is shifting a little bit. We've got more lighting options. It becomes a full-blown production for every dance. And it is not just the dance that we are judging anymore. And it's hard to judge the dance itself and the dancer, the contestant that doesn't have the experience, when you've got all these things around them, making it look like a lot better. And I think Len really struggled with that. In addition to that, he was just not happy that Max was not respecting him, his tenure with the ballroom world. Just him at his age as a man, the two of them. And so I think Len became a bit more vocal and a bit more strong in his choice of words with Max, because he was also taking a lot of that frustration with the show out on Max. I think Max was kind of his like scapegoat. Now, the two of them had every right to tumble the way that they did, but I do think Len, there was an added layer of frustration that he added to Max. Does that make sense? They were also calling Max out on his poor choice of personality. You know, he would smirk when he shouldn't have been smirking. He would, you know, go to say something and then mumble it under his breath. And this is when Carrie Ann started becoming a little bit more upfront with her choice. And that is when for me, if anything before season 13 sticks out to you in a way that you could feel like that shift, let me know in the comments. But for me, season 13 is where we start to get, we are a production. And with that comes, we need a little bit of controversy. And so we're going to dive into that. And it was, for many of us as fans and viewers, kind of like a shock. Like, what is going on? And so...
I'm at a loss, really, if I'm honest, because you may not believe this, Hope, but I've never lost faith in you. I haven't. I always feel that there is so much there, and for some reason it hasn't come out. Now, partly because of those boots, you didn't step... You know, the heels make you go onto the ball of your foot, and the one thing you mustn't do is step on your heel. Well, it was totally full of heel leads. It lacked... This is your worst dance of the whole season, in my opinion. And I'm so... Well, look, do you think I like it? I'm really disappointed. Don't start all that, Max, because half the fault is yours, so don't start all that.
As long as the audience like our journey, we're good.
The audience, let me tell you, Max, the audience like the effect. They judge on efficacy. I've been in this business for nearly 50 years. My criteria to judge is different to the audience.
Like that. Let's not be disrespectful to everybody, right? Because everybody's putting a lot of effort. Everybody on that balcony has been dying and killing themselves only to hear your guys a little judgmental comments.
That
you know what I mean?
It's
a little much. I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just protecting my partner.
Let me protect you.
Very, very clear.
Now, this is fall of 2011. In 2012, not even a year later, Hope Solo releases her memoir. I'm not sure how it all transpired, because you got the end of fall 2011, which went through November, and then months later, a handful of months later, this memoir comes out. So I don't know if she already had the memoir written and then she went ahead and added this chapter. I don't know the premise of anything about how, I won't even pretend to know like what that book timeline looks like. But less than a year later, after her partnership with Max, after doing interviews separately of them saying like they did not have fun together, they weren't great partners, she includes in her memoir allegations of Max abusing her. We did not know about that during their time on the show. I guess let me be very specific with this. She detailed several instances throughout her memoir of alleged physical and verbal aggression. She claims that he slapped her across the face hard. And she specifically says it was a rehearsal for the Halloween week. She also alleges that he would push her, whack her stomach, and bend her arms roughly noting that one incident, a palm strike to her stomach left a red handprint for the rest of the day. She says in her memoir that she let production know, or that ABC offered to have her find a new partner for the rest of the season, and that she said no because she didn't want to look like a prima donna and she didn't want to be the one to end Max's career. So she chose to continue being on the show with her alleged abuser. And Max continued to be on the show for years to come. And I'd like to think, and so I know sometimes I'm naive and I want the best. I want to see the best in every person in every business. And I know that that's not the truth. But surely, if there were allegations of abuse, and surely, I mean, if they're doing rehearsals, the camera's rolling, right? I know not all the time. But like, if he had slapped her and they started filming before or after that or during, like, I don't know. Isn't there someone that has, and I am not downplaying her allegations. If they are true to be told, you know, that's an awful experience. With that being said, Max continued to be a pro on the show. Max was not given any kind of consequence for it. There is, and he denies it hardcore. He went on to say that she is a hypocrite, a liar, and an opportunist, and that even in 2015, a couple years later, he spoke on the fact that she's a shitty person and that there's no excuse for being a bad person regardless of one's upbringing, because she has gone on to say that, well, let me backtrack a little bit. He did that interview in 2015. Following her time on the show, you have just in 2012 also, cops were called because her and her husband were fighting the night of their wedding or before their wedding. Then in 2015, she was arrested for being intoxicated and upset and allegedly assaulting her half-sister and 17-year-old nephew. She was extremely combative when talking with the cops, which is not her first time doing that. There are, I mean, I could go, she has a laundry, I shouldn't say a laundry list, and I don't want to, a bad person can make bad decisions and still experience bad situations. I don't want to digress from if those allegations are true. It's just, I want to be able to give you all of the information. And for me, I don't know, my personal opinion is I don't know. I think she took his, I hope I say this the right way. I think she took his coaching and she was not used to it. And I think in her brain, I don't know, but she is the one that has arrest records for domestic dispute, for assault. Now, many of them were thrown out or dismissed. There were legal appeals that somehow she got lucky with. I will say it looks like she went to rehab in 2022 following. The cops found her in her car, passed out from being drunk with her twins, 2-year-old twins, in the back of the car. And then she was combative with the cops then. Every time she has an altercation that involves cops, there are reports on reports on reports of how she speaks and addresses and handles the cops. And in her defense, I do believe her and her husband, who are still together, are sober now. She is back on the soccer field. So I think she amended some of those bridges that she burned. And I want nothing but the best for everyone involved. And I hope that, you know, sometimes you dig yourself in such a deep hole and you hurt and burn so many people and bridges along the way that you have isolated yourself. And sometimes it's in that moment that you realize things. And so I hope she had that moment. I hope she's invigorated in life in this new chapter she has. I fully believe people can change and start over in a chapter with a new chapter. With that being said, though, her time on the show was very, very yucky. And I would say they are for sure one of the top 3 worst partnerships of the show's 34 season history. Okay, so let's move on to a happier topic. Ricki Lake and Derek. Those two together, Ricki Lake earned the Andy Richter Award this season. I did not have that on my radar, how good she would be, how much fun they would have, how dynamic of a duo the two of them were together. She really was a light. I wasn't taking away, I knew she had a really great personality and things like that. I just was surprised. And then to continue to see. Then we had Rob Kardashian and Cheryl Burke. And I know I've touched on this in the past. So Cheryl had on her podcast had said in the past that she had hooked up with 3 of her partners. And we all knew that one of them was Chad Ochocinco. The other 2, she's always kept private, and they have never stepped forward either to say, you know, it was me. So with that being said, I personally have always thought, this is just my hot take, my personal opinion, that Rob and her hooked up. Many of you message me and give me like your thoughts, your feedback on who you think it was. But for me, the third person I go back and forth with on a few of her partners, that there could or couldn't be something there. But for me, I've always thought that her and Rob hooked up. Rob surprised the heck out of me. His personality, like, he's so insanely private, especially coming from such like a big family. But I was surprised at how good he was. I was surprised at how determined he was. I was surprised at how, when it came to him being on the dance floor, he was able to like switch it up and he was on. This is one of those, when it came to the top 2, I was torn, and I've talked about this also before. I was torn between, I wanted Rob to win just because I remember being so surprised, but I really wanted Karina, the pro who won with JR, to win because I felt like she really deserved a mirror ball. So for me, I was fine with either one winning. But yeah, I was rooting for Rob only because I just remember being so surprised. Like, so surprised. And so then we had our winner, JR Martinez and Karina. Many of you, JR is one of the few that won Dancing with the Stars, but I don't think had nearly as big of a fan base, especially with some of the others that were on his season. So he is one of the, like, you don't have to have a big fan base to create a fan base within the show. Does that make sense? JR had he was so sweet, so understanding. He was a great partner for Karina, and the two of them were mesmerizing. I very much enjoyed his tenacity, his perseverance, and her, like, she was like, oh, I've got a good one. I'm gonna win with this one, and that they did. JR, like I mentioned earlier, is a former Army veteran, and so he spoke a lot about his time serving our country and what he has done since then. And with that, we are wrapping up this episode of Beyond the Mirror Ball, season 13. Did I say 12 in the last video? I'm pretty sure I did. Season 13 of Dancing with the Stars. I am your host, Melina. Please do me the biggest favor, like this page. Well, you guys should have done that if you already voted in the past. But in case you haven't, subscribe to my channel. Be the first to see when something new comes out. Please be sure to follow me over on Instagram and Facebook, Mixing It Up with Melina. And be sure to send me a message. Tell me what you're thinking. Give me your feedback. And this is also going to be the first week. Make sure you're following me over on Instagram, because Thursdays Walk and Talk, we're going to do a live and talk about season 13. So join me.